in, everybody, to episode 28 of Sports and Leisure with Heflings and Heisure. I am your host, Ty Hefling, and unfortunately, I am by myself today. It's just me, Greg, and Steven are off busy with the holiday rush, so they were unable to get together today with me to record. So I'm just going to be by myself because I wanted to put something out there for everybody to listen to. For you to listen on your way to your family's Thanksgiving or on your way home. Just something to keep you occupied while you're driving, or something for you to listen to while you're hiding away in the bathroom to get away from your weird uncle or your crazy aunt or grandma. So that's why I'm putting something out. And plus, I'm sure people have come accustomed to hearing it from us every week, and I want to keep that going. So that's what we're going to do today. That's why I'm doing it today. So, and plus, like I've been mentioning these last couple of weeks, a lot of things are going on in the sports world. This is a good time of year. All sports are in action, it seems like, except for baseball. All that wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. So, but there's still basketball, there's still hockey. Football is in the main swing of things. So we got to put something out there for everybody to listen to. So first thing I want to kind of get into is last week's NFL action. A couple of surprises that I saw that I think a lot of people were surprised. First off, the Sunday night game with the Packers and the 49ers, and the 49ers just putting up a whooping on the Packers. That game wasn't close at all. The 49ers got out to a lead early and kept it with that stout defense. Rodgers looked confused. He wasn't comfortable at all. They couldn't get the run game going. They got a cheap touchdown late to Devontae Adams, and then that kind of salvaged it and made it, I don't want to say respectable, but it wasn't as laughable as it was. But still, 37-8, it is not how you wanted to go down. And that game, I think, was pretty split, even Steven on who people were picking to win. Luckily, I picked the 49ers just because they're at home. They were coming off a bye week, so were the Packers. But I think the 49ers, just that defense is just too good. And that Packers offense, it's not what it used to be. They're a lot more run-centered now, which is good. I think it takes a lot of pressure off of Rodgers. Aaron Jones has been phenomenal this year, playing football, fantasy football as well. I think I have him in my work league, and he's been great. He's been killer. So, if they're unable, it looks like if they're unable to get that run game going, you saw it in the Chargers game, where they just couldn't get him going. They couldn't get him his touches and couldn't get him the room for Aaron Jones to eat up some yards and get that run game going, and that kind of sputtered the whole offense. So, like I said, you saw that in the 49er game on Sunday. You saw that in the Chargers game, and those have been, the two main losses for the Packers this year. So, that's kind of a blueprint for people in the future. If you get on that run game early and force them to pass, which is kind of crazy because, you think they have Devontae Adams, they got Jimmy Graham, and you have Aaron Rodgers. You think with those three people, that's all you need for a pass game. But I don't know if it's Matt LaFleur's offense or if Aaron Rodgers has just gone down a step or two. If they can't get that run game going, it spells bad news for the Packers. But on the flip side, if they do get that run game going, if Aaron Jones is finding room and getting that yards, and that just opens up the whole offense, and then they're almost unstoppable at that point, because then you got Jimmy Graham in the flat on the play action. You got Devontae Adams doing his thing. So, like I said, that just looks like a formula blueprint kind of beat the Packers to slow down that run game. And I don't know if that's just how great the 49ers defense are that they can do that, or if that's what every team needs to try to strive to do. Because the Packers are probably going to win the division. I think the Vikings are too far back. They do play again once more. And that's not saying the Vikings are a bad team, because the Vikings are a really good team. Kirk Cousins looks to finally exercise some demons come prime time, and we'll find out. I think they play the Seahawks Monday night next week. So we'll see how he plays in that game, if he really has exercised those demons, or if that Cowboys game was kind of a fluke. So that'll be interesting. The Vikings are going to need that game if they're going to want to stay pace with the Packers, because like I said, they do have a game coming up which could make up some ground on there, but I still think the Packers are going to win that division. So they're going to go in the playoffs, and the Packers 49ers, it's definitely a good possibility that they will meet up in the playoffs at some point, whether that be the divisional round or the NFC Championship game. Because those are two good teams. You couldn't tell with that game, with that 49ers beatdown, but those are still two good teams that could definitely meet up and get in the playoffs, which I'm sure the Packers will hopefully have a different game plan and come at them and make that more of a close game there than this last one was. Another primetime game. There's a lot of good primetime games this last week. The Cowboys and Patriots didn't really live up to the bill. We thought that would be a much better game, and it was a good game, but with it being rainy, it was more of a defensive struggle. Special teams was a lot more important in that game, and the defense was more important in that game than the offense were. Dak Prescott couldn't do much. Amari Cooper had 0 catches, which is just... that's kudos to Stephon Gilmore for shutting him completely down. You talk about, you hear these things about shutdown corners, but these wide receivers still, with these wide receivers now in today's game, they're too fast, they're too good. These slant patterns, these quick throws, it's impossible to keep a guy from not catching anything. Usually they get, a catch or two for like 20 some odd yards, and then that's considered, to me, that's shutting them down. But when somebody doesn't get 0 catches, 0 yards, and you could argue that he did have a catch that was overturned for it to be incomplete. It looked to me like it could have been. I've seen catches like that be called the catch, and I've seen them be not called the catch. You do see the ball move around when he does land on the ground. You're unsure if he does have something underneath, but it didn't look like he maintained possession. But I still like to consider that a catch, regardless of what the exact rules are, and whatnot. So you can throw that out there, but even still, then at that point he had like a catch for 20 yards, which, like I said, is still me considering to be shut down. So the Patriots defense, after getting walloped by the Ravens a couple weeks ago, have really tune things back up, and they're looking like the historical defense that they thought they were at the beginning of the year. Because the Cowboys are coming in number 1 rated offense, I believe, or at least top 3. They had a good offense. Dak has been playing well. I think he's in the top 3 in passing yards. Zeke is top 3 in rushing yards. Cooper top 3 in receiving. They have a great offense, and that pains me to say because I am a Redskins fan, and that's a division rival. But Cowboys do have a good offense, but that rainy weather in Foxborough really slowed them down. And of course, you had the comments of Jerry Jones afterwards really criticizing his coaching, and it's definitely looking like Jason Garrett is gone, which is kind of sad. Once again, Redskin fan coming here, I want to see Jason Garrett get like a 13-year extension. Because, he's been with the Cowboys for, 9 years? He's got 2 playoff wins. I'm surprised Jerry Jones has stuck with him this long because he's been mediocre at best. He's like the Tony Romo of coaches. He's great at getting you 8-8, 9-7, and making the playoffs, and then, a quick exit at best. So, I see Jason Garrett being gone. I don't want to even speculate on who they could bring in there afterwards. They'll probably try to go after that coach from Oklahoma or some flashy name. You know how Jerry Jones is. So, like the Patriots, it kind of boggles your mind that the Patriots are 10-1, especially with this offense. It just looks inept. It doesn't look... They're out of sorts, out of whack. Nothing really seems to be going for them. They really have only one wide receiver with Julian Edelman, who seems to always, get nicked up and banged up, so he's always playing hurt. And then Mohamed Sanu was out. He didn't play. That's their new toy they just traded for a couple weeks ago from Atlanta, and he really hasn't even gotten going, which sucks because I traded for him in one of my fantasy leagues. I was hoping he'd put something on the board, and now he's sitting on the bench again. So, it just continues to go the terrible luck that the Patriots have had at wide receiver, but I don't think anybody is going to be complaining about that because they had pretty good luck with everything else. So, like I said, that was a good primetime game. It's a defensive struggle. And then you have Monday night, which wasn't a good game, much like Sunday's game was just a massacre. The Ravens come in, score on their first drive, didn't look back. They could have stopped scoring after their first drive and still won. That defense absolutely shut down the Rams, who kind of like the Patriots, that offense hasn't looked good at all. You have a Super Bowl team, a team that made it to the Super Bowl last year that looking like they're not even going to make the playoffs this year. That defense isn't what they were last year. The offense isn't what they were last year. I don't know if it's just lack of coaching from McVay if he's not done the changes that needed to be made. Everybody's caught up to what his thing is. I don't know if it's just Gurley having a bad year, having an off year. I don't know if he's slowing down, if he's lost a step, or if it's just, chalk it up to a bad year. Everybody's going to have him. Goff looked like he's regressed. Last year he took a big step forward. He looked like he was their quarterback for the future, and they thought so too because they busted out that huge contract, which I think they're already regretting. If not, then it'll be within a year that they're really going to regret it because, they gave all this money to him, and little by little, year after year, they're going to start losing more and more pieces that took them to the Super Bowl, and then they're going to be stuck with Goff, and that's it because they're giving him all this money, and they're not going to be able to replace these all-stars and these all-pros that they've accumulated, and they don't have draft picks to put them back in to draft and replace them with. So the Rams are in a downward spiral, and it's a sharp downward spiral. It's not a gradual decline. It's not looking good for them at all. And so, like I said, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. We could see big changes next year. I don't think they're going to fire McVay. I don't know why they would. I think he's still a great coach. If they do fire him, I want the Redskins to go after him hard. So, yeah, like I said, I think probably some offensive changes coming next year, and I think they definitely need to look at trying to get rid of Goff. I think he's not the answer. I think if anything, he is slowing them down at this point, both financially and with his play on the field. He hasn't been good at all. And if they're going to trade him, then they're going to have to convince him, or the new team that they trade him to is going to have to convince him to renegotiate that contract. Because I think he's getting way too much money than he deserves. And like I said, that's handcuffing them, and it's not looking good for their future. What was it? I think it was episode 20. One of the episodes I talked about the Super Bowl host curse, and I mentioned that at the time it didn't look probable because the LA Rams are hosting the Super Bowl in a couple years, and it seems it's more likely that the team hosting the Super Bowl doesn't make the playoffs than making the playoffs. I think it's like 70% the team that hosts the playoffs miss it, and it's looking more and more likely like the Rams are going to fall into that category of not making the playoffs because they're in a downward spiral. They don't have any draft picks to replace these guys that they're about to lose. They don't have the money to pay these guys that their contracts are running up. So it's bad. And this Monday night game is just shining light on it. Prime time just getting absolutely tore up by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And the Ravens, like I said, they're just looking as good as they've been looking these last couple weeks. They've been on fire. This offense is looking great. The defense has stepped up. Massively. They did that with the Patriots. That game wasn't close. They did that last week. Who they played last week? With the Texans, keeping them to 7 points. They kept the Rams to 6 points. So they kept the Patriots to like 6 or 7 points. Where's that at? Oh boy, whatever. Like I said, defense. Ever since they got blown out to the Browns in like week 5 or 6, that defense has really cranked it up, and they are just looking amazing. The defense gave up 20 against the Patriots, which to that Patriots offense is more than what they've been doing. But they definitely look like a Super Bowl contender. They look like you don't want to count the Patriots out ever because you got Belichick, you got Tom Brady. It's hard to count them out. And obviously, they've seen them once, and I'm sure they're going to have a whole bunch of surprises and things that Lamar's never seen if and when they meet in the playoffs. So it's like I said, it's hard to count the Patriots out, but the way things have been looking, the Ravens have been looking unstoppable, both sides of the ball. I don't want to hurry. I don't want to go on and make them my Super Bowl pick right now, just because there's still a lot to go on. There's a lot of a season left to be played. But week in and week out, they're making it harder and harder not to say that they are definitely the favorites up to this point. So that's all I really have to say about the Ravens. It's just they're looking really good. Who do they play next? The Ravens play the 49ers next, which is I don't know how that's not a Sunday night or Monday night game. That game is just There's a lot of good game next week. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about next week. Related to the Ravens, play the 49ers. Both great defenses. If any defense can match up and try and slow down this Ravens offense, it's the 49ers. With that front seven they have, it's just immaculate. You got Bosa, you got Forrest Buckner, who else? You got D Ford. That's just a great front line. They're going to be able, better than anybody, I don't know if they'll be able to, but better than anybody, try and get Lamar Jackson off his groove, off his game, and try and slow him down as much as possible and try and make him throw as much as possible and not have him win the game with his legs. Which, I mean, he can still win the game with his arm. He's improved drastically throwing the football, which obviously it's helped by his running threat, his threat of running, and, he's got wide open throws. So, I mean, if he's left to only throw, those windows are going to tighten up. So we'll see if he can do it that way. But you got to first slow him down with his legs and make him beat you with his arm. And we really have yet to see that. The Browns did a good job of that just because the Browns do have a good defensive line. They did. Now they don't have Myles Garrett, but they still have a good defensive line. They got some good linebackers, and the 49ers are built in that same way. And I even think that the Ravens lost their center last week, so that's going to be a tough thing to fill. The Ravens do have a great offensive line, so hopefully they can mask that center loss. But that's going to be a good game. 49ers, it's going to be in Baltimore, and like I said, it's tough. It's tough for me to pick against the Ravens with what they've done. We're gonna see if the 49ers are for real. They are 10-1. They really haven't played anybody up for these last 3 weeks. They should have beat the Seahawks. Definitely should have beat the Seahawks. They're a kick away from being that. They could still be undefeated. And then that just dismantling of the Packers last week is really up their value. So I mean, we could, like I said, right now it's looking like we could see a 49er Raven rematch of the Super Bowl that we did a couple years ago, and both teams are drastically different. I don't even know if there's one player on the same team as there was in, 2012 when it was Kaepernick and you had Flacco. There's the only thing that's similar is John Harbaugh, Jim, whatever, the Harbaugh coach for the Ravens. That's going to be about the only guy that's the same thing with these 49ers. And, I mean, the 49ers and Ravens. So that's going to be a great game. I think I'm going to still stick with the Ravens, especially with them being at home. And then Sunday night, the reason it's not Sunday night is because the Patriots and Texans playing. Texans rebounded a little bit. They beat the Colts last Thursday after getting walloped by the Ravens. Patriots. I'm gonna. That's gonna be a good, tough game in Houston. Houston really probably wants to win this game. They need it more than the Patriots do, obviously. I mean, the Patriots have had the division not really locked up, but I mean, it's really been locked up since they first beat the Bills, like in Week 4. I don't see the Bills catching them at all. Texans definitely need this because they are still very much in a heated race for that AFC South division. The Titans have been playing better with Tannehill taking the reins. I think they've lost one game since he's been there, and they've beaten the Chiefs. So I mean, Titans are looking good. I kind of picked them to be a playoff contender. We talked about this last week when we did an AFC South overview. But I think Titans are good. And they could definitely threat to win that division. I don't think they are. I think they're going to run out of gas. But the Texans need this to hold off the Colts and hold off the Titans more than the Patriots do. And with it being at home, and they have since I played on Thursday, they have a little extra time to try and prepare for the Patriots and get ready for them. I definitely can see them playing well and beating them. But don't really quote me on that. I remember a couple years ago, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, when the Texans had like their first really, really good team. And, they were, I don't want to say I think they were undefeated, but they had lost 1 or 2 games. They were coming to play the Patriots on Sunday night. All of the Texans had bought Letterman jackets, and they wore them to the game. And then they proceeded to just go and get absolutely throttled by the Patriots and really crash them down to earth. That in fact, the Texans had not finally showed up, and that they are still the Houston Texans expansion team that was awful up until that point. So they may still have a bad taste in that mouth. I know J.J. Watt was a part of that team, so he's not going to be a part of this game because he is hurt. Like I said, Texans need this game. I think they'll be a little more hungry. So I think I'm going to pick the Texans to win that game. And then Monday night, I kind of already mentioned it, the Vikings at the Seahawks. Seahawks have looked really good. They haven't really blown anybody out. They've kind of been in a lot of games, probably more games than they should have. Especially the Browns game comes to mind. They should have definitely beaten the Browns a lot more than they did. And they're chasing. Both teams are trying to keep pace with their division leaders, and I don't think both of them are going to catch either one of them. So they're both looking to keep that wild card spot, and both of them are comfortably in the wild card. I think the loser of the NFC East, either the Cowboys or the Eagles, are still 2 games behind both of them. So they both need to win bad to try and keep that separation from the rest of the teams trying to catch up on that wild card spot. So I'm still going to pick the Seahawks. They're in Seattle. I'm still not sold that Kirk has exercised his demons on prime time. I've watched way too many Redskin games on Monday night, on Thursday night, on Sunday night, and have him just crumble like blue cheese and just play poorly. And especially with this Seahawks team, I think they've always had his number. He did beat them in Seattle a couple years ago, but that was not prime time. That was 1 o'clock in the afternoon when nobody was watching, nobody was caring, nobody thought they had a chance in hell to win that game, and they somehow did. But that was a much different Seahawks team. I believe they're much better this year. I think that defense is finally starting to get back to where they were when they had the Legion of Boom, even though none of them are still there except for what's his face. I don't know, but most of them are all gone. Like I said, this is still a good Seahawk team, and I think they're going to show that. It's going to be a good game, though. It's not going to be a blowout. Like I already said, the Seahawks don't blow people out. They keep games close, and they pull it out and win almost in the last minute, and I think that's going to be another case today because the Vikings are one of the most well-rounded teams in the NFL. They have a great defense. They have prime players on offense. They have a great running back. They're kind of like the Cowboys, whereas, I think they're better defensively than the Cowboys. And, I want to say their running back and their wide receiving core is better than the Cowboys. The only thing the Cowboys may have that is better than the Vikings is the quarterback position. I do believe Dak is better than Kirk Cousins, and I think he's shown that. But the Vikings still a very good, well-rounded team. They're a playoff team, and if they are a playoff team and they want to get deep in the playoffs again, like they did a couple years ago, these are the games that they have to win. They have to beat playoff teams on the road in primetime games. And I'm not sure if they're exactly ready for that yet. If they do, if Kirk Cousins comes out, tosses around, throws like 250, 300 yards, a couple touchdowns, no picks, you're going to color me surprised, first off, and then I'm definitely going to change my tone on this Vikings, on Kirk Cousins especially, but on where the Vikings are going to go once they get into the playoffs. So I'll definitely be watching that one closely, and I'm going to be excited for it. Like, this is another great week of NFL primetime games. Hopefully they live up better than last week's, because last week's Sunday and Monday night games were just stinkers. None of them were fun to watch at all. Trying to look at any other. The Browns and the Steelers play again in Pittsburgh. This is going to be not a great game to watch for like the actual playing wise, but for the drama and everything else involved in football, it's going to be great to watch because of that. Obviously, everybody that was involved in that kerfuffle on Thursday night a couple weeks ago will not be there. Myles Garrett's been suspended. Pouncey's out. Mason Rudolph will not be starting. They're going to have Duck Hodges playing, which I don't know why they ever had Randolph playing in the first place. Duck Hodges won his first game. I don't know if he got hurt, or I don't know what Mike Tomlin's thought process was on not starting him for the rest, or at least giving him one more start to see if he can continue what he did. I'm just surprised it's taken him this long to bench Rudolph and put in Duck Hodges. Because they did last week when they were losing to the Dolphins. He came in, and the Steelers, the Bengals, were they playing the Bengals or the Dolphins? Anyway, one of those terrible teams that they should not have been losing to. It was Bengals, because they were to play the Dolphins. They're losing to the Bengals, who have yet to win a game, and they brought in Duck Hodges, and he flipped the switch, and they ended up winning that game. So hopefully I don't see him doing as poorly as Rudolph, where they're going to throw him back in there just because he's been playing awful. I think he was one of the main reasons they lost to the Browns. I'm not going to say I was glad that he got clunked in the head, but I haven't heard many Steelers fans that were that upset that it was him getting clocked in the head and not somebody else. I haven't heard many Steelers fans say they like Rudolph at all. And I can kind of see why. He's kind of a dud. He hasn't played well at all. And to his defense, he's playing with other second and third stringers because they have just been riddled with injuries. They have not had a good year at all when it comes to that. So I will put my heart out a little bit for that, but some guys still make it work, and it's not looking like he's one of them. The best thing about this week, Thanksgiving, is 3 NFL games that start at like 11:30, 12 o'clock, and then you just got football the rest of the night. They give you a little time in between to take a nap because you have to with that turkey. So that's good to have 3 games. It makes a great holiday even better that you have 3 NFL games to watch. I love that they've expanded this and they put one more Thursday night game at night. Whereas I don't think they've been doing that for the last 5 or 6 years. It just used to be 2 games, the Bears and the Cowboys, and since they've added that 3rd game, it's made it better, and I think that's good for the NFL to do that. The NFL is one of the better leagues that constantly expand and produce and market their league better than anybody else. Basketball is up there as well. Basketball and the NFL are great at getting their product out there for everybody to see and getting them out there in good times that people want to watch them at. Basketball has kind of a hold on Christmas Day. Christmas Day is definitely basketball time, but Thanksgiving, without a doubt, is football. Is a football holiday. So that's all I'm really going to talk about with football. It's just, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Week 13 is about to start. Only got 13, 14, 15, 16, 5 more weeks before the playoffs start. Fantasy playoffs. This is usually the last week of fantasy playoffs. So I'm hoping everybody in there. I know my league I'm in with my buddies. Neil's been on the podcast. Andrew's been on the podcast. They're in that league team together, and that is just a cutthroat, nail-biting, anxiety-riddled league that every week matters. Every minute I'm checking that score to see if I'm up or down, and what I got, I'm calculating in my head, I need so-and-so to do this, I need him to do that, and that league has just kept me awake at night. And I'm right there with about 3 or 4 other teams that are praying for a win this week and see if I can squeak into the playoffs. So I'm hoping everybody else, I'm hoping some people don't have to deal with that this week. I'm hoping you're already locked into the playoffs and you don't have to worry and be anxiety-filled with this. You can kind of take a break and ease into the playoffs, but I'm not one of them for this league at all. And it sucks, but it's also good. If I do come out with a win, it's going to feel great. And if I don't, I'm just going to probably chuck my laptop across the room and swear up and down I'll never play fantasy football again until next March rolls around, and then I'll be ready for it all over again. But one thing I do want to mention, college basketball has started, if you want to call it that. This is the time of year where you have like the Maui Invitational, and you have like these just BS games. You have teams that are playing colleges you never heard of, just FCS schools, just their cupcake games that they're trying to break into the season. There are a couple teams, you saw Kentucky and Michigan State and all those guys play each other, and that's good to see to start out the year. But the best thing that's happened is Kentucky losing to Evansville. Like I said, you play these cupcake teams thinking you're going to win by 50 and put in some freshmen to get some playing time there at the last couple of minutes. But that's not the case for Kentucky because they lost to Evansville, which is awesome. I despise Kentucky basketball. I despise Calipari so much. Ever since he left Memphis and just left them, and they haven't really recovered since then. They were a great college basketball team, and when he left them in ruins with all the sanctions and infractions that he put upon them with illegitimate recruiting, and then he dodged town and didn't get a taste of any of that. Like I said, Memphis hasn't really recovered, and so I've always despised him and despised how he builds his Kentucky basketball teams with 5-star freshmen and whatnot that leave after a couple years. For them to lose to Evansville, and Kentucky always does start off slow. It seems like they always Like, they're always coming in preseason top 5 ranked, I feel, and then, they squeeze out a couple close ones. They may lose to some, I don't want to say FCS team. I don't think this is the first time they lost to like a Division II team, but they'll squeak out some ones that get some mid majors, and they'll lose to like some Texas Techs or whatnot. Some not top ranked teams, but still in Division I. And they're always, like I said, start off slow, and people kind of doubt them, and then towards the end of the season they start to pick back up, and they play the tournament well. And they're always in the conversation for championships, and that's how Kentucky's played the last 5 or so years. But losing to Evansville, this could be a bigger blow that they won't be able to recover from. Obviously, they probably will. Calipari, as much as I despise him, he is still a good coach. He still will be able to get his team to play well for him and win a lot of games. But it's still just going to be an asterisk on this season that they lost to Evansville. It's going to go down as one of the bigger upsets in college basketball history. And I know in the last 5 or 10 years, these upsets have been more common with the way college and NBA have the draft order. They can leave after 1 year, and that's really deteriorated college basketball. I think it's made it a little more fun, especially come NCAA tournament. You're seeing a lot more upsets and things like that. You don't see, 1s and 2s and 3s in the Final Four anymore. You're seeing, 1-1, a 4, an 8 seed, a 6 seed. You're seeing that year in and year out, and I don't think this year's going to be any different. And I think that is because guys are leaving after a year and they're not building up their game, which, I'm not for or against that. Heck, if you're good enough to play in the NBA after 1 year and you want to go make money, I'm all for that. Go on and do that. But has it probably deteriorated the college basketball game a little bit, diminished it a little bit? Yeah, it has. And you see that because you see a lot more upsets, and this is one of them. And it's not just Kentucky, because Duke lost on Tuesday, so that was last night. They lost to Stephen F. Austin. No, that's not a guy's name. That is an actual college. You may remember them from a couple years ago. They made a small run in the NCAA tournament, and they came back this year and beat Duke on in overtime on a runaway layup. And it's just, I could not have picked 2 better teams to lose to mid-majors like that at the beginning of the year and just kind of plummet and start off so poorly and kind of have a bad look on them. I like Duke. I like Kentucky. I just despise Duke. I like Coach Krzyzewski. Once again, like Calipari, I think he's a good coach. He's been coaching Duke since before I was born. And he coaches Team USA. I like him. I just despise everything Duke is made of, and that's because they're probably a good team. They're always in there. I always root for them to lose because they're a good team. But I usually despise most of the players that come out there, like Grant Williams and what's his name, Jay Willett, whatever that dude's name is from college basketball. I don't like him. I didn't like the Plumlee dude. Zion's probably the most recent guy that I don't mind. I think Zion Williams, I think he's cool. He's a cool cat. What's that dude, that white guy that trips everybody? He plays for the Grizzlies right now. Dang it, I need Greg and Steven here to tell me. Grayson Allen. I hate that kid so much. I think he is the worst thing to come out of Duke since that lacrosse scandal. Like, he is just a terrible... I don't think he's that good at basketball. I think he's just got a terrible attitude. I think he's a spoiled brat. I am so mad that the Grizzlies traded. I don't want to say traded for him, but he was bundled into a trade, and that now he's playing for the Grizzlies. I can't stand him. Every time he comes in and plays for the Grizzlies, I turn the channel. I don't want to watch that stupid moron play with the Grizzlies jersey on. The fact that he went to Duke. If he didn't go to Duke, if he went to any other school, I still would hate him because of just how he plays, how he acts, what he does. I just despise that guy so much, and the fact that he went to Duke just amplified it, and it made sense. It made sense that he would go play for a terrible school like Duke, and like I said, I could not pick 2 better schools, Duke and Kentucky, to lose to mid-major teams this early in the season and just get embarrassed. These games that they're supposed to that they have supposed to win by 25, 30 points, and the fact that they're taking overtime, that alone, you win in overtime, that's kind of embarrassing. But for you to lose both those games, that's just great, and it makes me excited. Meanwhile, Tennessee, they didn't come in preseason ranked, which I thought was a little off. I thought they should have been, close to, 25, 24 or something like that. They've come in and played well. They have not lost to mid-majors. I need to knock on some wood. As soon as I say this, they're going to lose to Charleston or whoever they play tonight or tomorrow. But they played well, even with the loss of Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield and all that. They're still playing well, and it looks like they're going to be playing well for the future because Rick Barnes has just been recruiting with the best of them. I think they're a top 5 recruiting class right now for next year. They've been top 10, top 15 recruiting class the last couple of years since he's building a program. And Tennessee basketball is probably the shine of the university at this point. Football hasn't been that good in a couple of years, and actually more than a couple of years. It's been like 8 or 9 years since they've really been any posable threat. But basketball has kind of taken the reins from football, and I think that might be the most popular sport in the University of Tennessee right now. It is with me. I'd much rather watch a Tennessee basketball game than a Tennessee football game at this point, even though they have turned it around. Tennessee football has, but I've said that before, and here we are with the same problems that they've had. So, like I said, I'm glad to see those two teams lose, and I hope it continues. I don't really want to jump on college basketball yet. It's still early. There's still all these little Bahama tournaments and whatnot. I don't really get into college basketball until conference play starts, which I think starts in like January. After bowl season starts, that's when I really started getting into college basketball. And I think that's with most people. So, let's see here. I really think that's all. Hockey's still too smidge too early, I think, to talk about hockey. Same thing with basketball. Still a smidge too early to talk about basketball. Like I said, football's in prime time. Talked about sport right now, and for good reason, because they're over the halfway point, and we're starting to talk playoff scenarios, and that's what we're gonna probably talk about here for the majority of our next couple episodes. So if you're here for hockey, if you're here for basketball, I'm sorry, just be a little more patient, but we will definitely get to it when these seasons start picking up and we're to the halfway point of hockey and basketball. Right now, we just got to talk about football, and I think that's what everybody wants to hear, and that's definitely what we want to talk about, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, like I said, if you're here for basketball and hockey talk, just be a little more patient. We may chit-chat a little bit about it here and there, but the majority of these episodes are going to be basketball filled. So, let me just check here. Like I said, with it just being me today, I think we're going to wrap it up with this episode. Like I said, just giving you guys something to listen to in the car ride to your family's house, away from your family's house, or to hide out away from your family. So I'm hoping you're enjoying it with just me. Believe me, I am up there with more than anybody disappointed that it's just me tonight. I love talking with Greg and Steven about this stuff. I know they probably are a little more animated and they have a little more boastful opinions than I do, but I still wanted to put something out there for everybody to listen to, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So, if you liked what you heard, if you have any comments, if you're as happy as I am about college basketball this early, please let us know. Send us an email at sportsandleisurepodcast@gmail.com. Follow our page on Facebook. Comment on our post on Facebook. Like our page on Facebook. Do all that. Follow our page on Twitter. You can follow myself on Twitter, Ty Heffling. You can follow us at Sports and Leisure on Twitter. Follow Greg and Steven. They have their own Twitter account, even though they don't use it that much. But I'm sure they'll still like to follow. Like I said, that's all we had this week. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you're having a great and wonderful Thanksgiving. We talked about this last week. I think Thanksgiving is a great holiday. I love it. It's up there with Christmas for me. It might be tied just because I love the food. I love the football. I love the time of the year. It's just a great and fun holiday, and I enjoy it thoroughly. So I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Please tune in next week. We should have all three of us back. If not, we have a couple guests coming up. I do want to do want to put that out there. We do have a couple guests lined up, 2 or 3 that I know of that will be coming in. Hopefully we can get all 3 of them in before Christmas. And like I said, tune in next week to episode 29. I hope you guys have a great week, and we will talk to you later.
Sports.
Bye-bye.
And leisure heflings. And leisure sports. And leisure heflings. And leisure sports. And leisure with heflings and leisure sports. And leisure heflings. And leisure sports. And leisure heflings. And leisure. This is sports and leisure with heflings and leisure.